When we're talking about both JavaScript and CSS, there are some similarities, and even there are places where the two cross over. And so, hover, for instance, you can hook into a hover event in JavaScript, but then you can also target elements by hover in CSS, and that is a pseudostate. Now, there are also other pseudostates like hover. Like active and focus. So if I were to select an element with a pseudostate of focus, it would just look like this. Now we can also hook into that event in JavaScript, and that's what we're going to do. So we have a text area here, and every time we focus in on the element, we're going to console log something. So how you do this is you write your target, which is a text area. And now the method that we're going to call on the text area is an event handler called focusin. And this is not camel case, which is going to get confusing. There are some things in jQuery that are, and then that aren't camel case. And I'm not sure how they decide when to follow, the rules that they've set, or rather the rules that the community has set, because typically in JavaScript, things are camel case. And I'm not sure if, the person who wrote JavaScript said, we have to write things like this, or if that's just a convention. Anyway, the focusin method that you're going to call on the text area is not camel case, it's all lowercase. And we're going to console log focused in on the text area. Save it, and then when I refresh my page, every time I focus into this element now, if we look down at the log here, we should see focused in on the text area. Now if I keep clicking in here, nothing happens because I'm not focusing in. I'm already focused on it. So we have to focus out and then focus back in. So we can do that. Now there's also a sister method to this called focusout. And I'm sure you guys can imagine what happens. So I'm going to target text area, focus out, and then the function here, we're going to console log text area has lost focus. There we go. So now when I refresh and I focus in, it focuses in. And when I focus out, we can realize that it has lost focus. So if you're doing something that, and also if you tab out, for instance, it doesn't determine or it doesn't matter in what way you focus out, it's going to focus out. Like by tabbing out, for instance. So that is how to focus, and it becomes practical when you're trying to do form validation, for example. You'll have a bunch of inputs on the screen, and you don't want to try and validate it too soon because it will look bad. Let's actually make an example here. In my index.html, underneath the text area, we're going to put an input with the name email, and the placeholder is going to say email. We're going to drop a few lines. And then I'm going to put a paragraph here with a class status. And by default, that paragraph is going to be hidden. So I'm going to save it and refresh. There we go. Now we can hook into this when we focus out. Let's just do it on key up right now so that you guys can see. What we're going to have to do is change the status message in color. So let's do on key up. So input name email on key up. We need to determine if it's a valid email. So we're going to create a var past, and we're going to set it to 0. We're going to say if this dot val dot index of the @ symbol is more than -1. Then we say past plus plus. And if this dot val index of a dot, I'm going to say past plus plus. Now there are certain things that we need to do, so let's go ahead and now each time a key is pressed up, it's going to validate this. So we need to keep past in the global space. There. Save this, refresh. It's undefined. So let's set it window.past. Save, refresh. Oops. And it's 8 because there's a key up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure why it's 8 though, but it's more than 0. Now what happens is we can determine if it's more than 0. So on key up, each time a key is up, if window.past is greater than 0, status message is going to say HTML valid, else status is going to say invalid. So if it's more than 1, actually, because there should be 2 of those characters. So all right, we need to show it. 1 sec. Let's just leave it shown for right now. So as you can see, if we try and validate right off the bat while we're typing, it goes invalid. And now it's valid. So if we say window past, what is this? It is 2 right now. So why would it get, why would we be getting 2 right? Oh, right. So rather than setting windows past, let's set window has at, and then window has dot. So if it has an at sign, then has at is +1, has dot is going to be +1. So if window has at is more than 1, and window has dot is more than 1, we should do that. Save it, refresh, let's start typing, and it's trying to validate immediately. And as you can see, when I add that, then it becomes valid. Now this is not proper email validation, by the way. I'm trying to demonstrate an example of why it's more useful when you focus out. So let's erase all of this. Now let's go ahead and say input dot focus out function if this index of at symbol is more than -1 and this index of dot is more than 1 or -1, then we know it's valid. So we can say status HTML valid email. else we can say your email is invalid. Please try again. So let's save it and refresh now. Now let's type in Nick at, let's tab out. Next of is not a function. All right, sorry, this val. The element itself does not have an index of. There we go. Nick, and let's click out. Oh, it's invalid. So now we know to go back and try. Oh, it's still invalid. And it's still invalid. Da 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 da. There we go. So as you can see, sometimes it makes it a lot easier and quicker to code, and it also makes it more comprehensive, because if somebody only gets like 2 characters through their email address, of course it's going to be invalid. We don't want to say that it's invalid because they know that. It's not helpful at that point. So that is focus in and focus out. These are going to be used specifically in forms. You may find other uses, and we might find other uses as we go along, actually. So yeah.